My name's John Marr. I am the manager of the Edinburgh branch of a children's mental health charity called With Kids. We have a team of child therapists and family workers who provide a mixture of play and art therapy to some of Edinburgh's most vulnerable children, and also support the families and the communities around those children. Thank you for tuning in, and welcome to the first of what I hope will be a regular piece of digital media that With Kids will be putting together over the next little while. I really hope that you're all doing okay and that you're coping with all this weirdness. And whether you're watching or listening today, thank you for spending some of the day with us. This is one of many different ideas that we've had for ways to keep providing support to families while we're not able to see people face to face. So over the next few weeks, we'll be doing some more of these little experiments to see what works and what doesn't. So your feedback on these experiments is really, really useful, and you can give that feedback by leaving a comment or clicking the like button or emailing me at j.mar@withkids.org.uk. The idea behind this experiment is to be able to offer some of the training workshops that we had planned that now can't go ahead as we'd hoped. So what you're going to hear or watch today is me having a chat with one of our therapists about a topic that we had hoped to give a face-to-face workshop on. I think that over the next few months, anything that's going to help children to regulate, unwind, stay entertained, and anything that's going to help families to not only survive this difficult time, but to even enjoy parts of it. Being stuck inside together doesn't have to be a terrible, terrible thing. It can be a time for families to connect, bond, and feel closer. And that's what I hope that these videos will maybe help families to be able to do. Anyway, that's enough from me just now. Here's the recording of my chat with Stacey Strachan, one of our child therapists here in Edinburgh. So, first of all, thank you for agreeing to have a chat with me on the internet. I know that recording on the internet is maybe a little weird and daunting, and I'm sure you didn't anticipate doing this when you decided to become a child therapist.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are getting involved in things they didn't think they would be getting involved in this past little while. So I thought we could start off by just getting to know you a little bit better, if that's okay.
Sure.
Could you tell us what got you interested in becoming a child therapist in the first place?
Okay. So yeah, I've always been quite creative, and also really enjoyed doing a lot of voluntary things with groups of children when I was younger, and still do. So yeah, I suppose the two sort of came together for me, with the creative side and being really interested in working with children. And I think I learn loads from children as well. I think that's a really important point to mention. Every day I'm learning something new. That children can sort of show and teach me. So I suppose those two things kind of came together. And also thinking about my own childhood as well. When I grew up, I had a kind of music teacher that felt really, really important in my life, because he just sort of accepted me. And each week it wasn't kind of, oh, have you not practiced? Have you not done this? He just sort of listened to me and really kind of accepted me for who I was. So I think channeling his sort of how he made me feel was really important. So yeah, I suppose a combination of all those things kind of led me on to
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because I think that we all have adults that stand out in our childhoods that really made us feel good and feel confident. I don't remember a lot of the lessons and a lot of the classes that teachers taught, but there are certain teachers that stand out because I remember how they made me feel, and that was to do with their personality and how they interacted with me. And I think we've all got one or two of those people that stand out for us. So obviously the world is a little bit crazy just now, and a lot of us are finding it difficult. What have you been doing to unwind and keep your sanity through all this craziness?
So I think the creative side of things is really important for me, and I know that Edinburgh with Kids have sort of said we're going to have a day where we share everything that we've been doing, that we've been doing creatively and finishing off projects. I think that's a really lovely thing to do. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes. So the creative stuff, I think keeping active is really important. So doing my allotted walk a day, I suppose, to kind of get out, get some fresh air. And I think yoga for me is really important. That's been something that's really important for me for years. And you can get some really great YouTube online classes to get involved in. And then, yeah, with friends and family, catching up with them over these various different platforms that I'm learning about. I think are great fun. So I think that's important for me too.
I've for myself, I've often thought of getting into yoga, but never managed to make that leap yet. So maybe this is a good time to get involved and try one of these videos.
Yeah, they're great. They do like 30-day classes. They're really simple and straightforward, and yeah, they're good.
Oh, fantastic. And I've been doing a lot of keeping in touch with people over different platforms as well. Most of which I had no knowledge of before this week. So yeah, I'm learning a lot about different online platforms and social media platforms. Why do you think it's so important to make time for self-care?
I think it's hugely important, and I think you can't kind of take cares if you're not taking care of yourself. And I think for me, I always know if I've not been kind of practicing good self-care because I'm not as tolerable, or I don't feel kind of as chilled out or able to think. I think that's really important. So yeah, I think taking care of yourself to then be able to take care of others is key.
Absolutely, it's a really good point, because we need the emotional space in our heads to be able to be that emotional support for other people. So yeah, I totally agree. For me, I'm quite similar to you when you said that you always know when you haven't been very good at self-care. For me, my brain just feels a bit buzzy, and I find it difficult to think, and I'm probably a little more irritable than usual. So that's when I know I need to do something. Usually it's just spend some time on my own and reading a book, or having a cuddle with my cats.
Yeah, all the important things.
Great, thank you for that. So you have come to speak to us today about self-care boxes. So could you tell us, first of all, what a self-care box is?
So I suppose you could call a self-care box numerous different things. So it could be a sensory box, it could be a calming box, a soothing box, or even kind of like mental health first aid box. And it's, I suppose, a way of supporting your child to think of coping strategies for themselves and to help them regulate. I think it's quite a playful, fun, kind of creative way of doing that, and really encouraging them to manage their emotions. I think is the overall idea.
Great. So it sounds like a box of things that they can use that help them to regulate and manage emotions.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure they've got lots of these things already, but it's about kind of bringing those together and containing them in one place.
More important than ever just now, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. I think it can be used at any time, but yeah, definitely at the moment.
Yeah. So where does the idea come from, or where did you first come into contact with this concept?
Yeah, so I suppose everybody sort of has bits all over their houses and their day-to-day lives that they might use to help them regulate and not maybe even realize it. But I came across the idea of a box and a place for them through a training with Dr. Karen Treisman. She's a clinical psychologist. So it made complete sense to me to have everything kind of in one place where you can sort of go to and access. So from her.
So is there some sort of brain science around why these sorts of activities are useful and why they work?
Yeah, I'm sure there's lots of kind of ways to explain it, but I suppose a way that really makes sense to me is a brain hand model that Dr. Daniel Siegel came up with. There's lots of kind of YouTube videos about it, but I suppose I could sort of show you a really simple way to explain it. If you imagine that my kind of wrist is the spinal cord, if you imagine my hand as a brain, and underneath you've kind of got your lower brain, and this sort of area you could describe as your emotional brain. And that's kind of where yeah, your emotional, your fight, flight, and freeze response would be happening. So fighting, arguing, shouting, kind of getting angry. Your flight is to kind of run away, to kind of seek some time for yourself, and then your freeze to not maybe know how to deal with it and to feel quite helpless. And then over the top, if you imagine you've got your thinking and your talking brain, and that kind of keeps everything engaged all together. And on the top, you can kind of have, you can say, I feel this, I need that. And your thinking brain can actually kind of say what your emotional brain might need when it's kind of all engaged as well. So I suppose sometimes when we kind of flip our lids and our thinking brain is kind of not engaged, then our emotional responses come out. So I suppose I'm thinking about the sensory box being used to hopefully regulate all that and to kind of engage it all together. And maybe not in the moment, it might not kind of work, but to kind of really think with your child about engaging that thinking brain after would be really helpful, I think.
So all these things that go into a self-care box, they help to manage the that top brain.
That kind of
so they
thinking,
can
and
help the emotional brain to regulate. I
because it
like
can
that
kind of
term,
say,
to flip your lid.
well, that's kind of think kind of where it comes from in a way. I think that can, so
That's really useful.
that brain science.
So what are some of the benefits of having a self-care box?
So I think having that quality time with your child actually is one of the really important parts for me, to really take time to make the box. And I've got some steps I'm going to talk about after. But that quality time with your child where you can sit down and listen and really take on board kind of what things are important for them. And I think talking about that kind of multi-sensory approach, because what's happening to us at the moment is multi-sensory. So all of the things in the box kind of tap into the different senses, and I think that's a benefit.
Great. No, I like the fact that you mentioned that it can be an activity that can be a bonding activity for parents and children together.
Absolutely, yeah.
One of the things I've been thinking recently is that being stuck in the house for a long period of time with family doesn't necessarily have to be a terrible thing, because it means there's a lot more opportunities for families to do that sort of closeness and bonding activities. I think though that sometimes people need a little bit of help and some resources to do it, and this sounds like one of those that could be really useful as an example of things that you could do at home together, which do bond. And then it has the added benefit of it can be used to help unwind and relax and regulate. I like it. It's such a good idea. So in case there are families listening or watching that aren't able to get out and about just now, is it possible to make a self-care box just from things lying around the house?
Yeah, definitely. I think they're almost the kind of better boxes to make, because they're things that you're maybe already using, and so you'll have lots of different things around the house that you can access to put into your box. So I think you don't have to go outside, and obviously at the moment that's really difficult. So using things around the house, I think, are great.
Fantastic. I think there's going to be a lot of families that can't actually get out and about just now, so it's good that they can be made from things that they can find in the house. Okay, have you got an example of a self-care box that you could show us?
I do. This is my self-care box.
Oh, lovely.
So I went with some colours that I really like, greens and purples, and some flowers. So you can decorate it in any way you want, with anything that you want, really. So that's my self-care box.
Oh, fantastic.
And I'm going to run through, I think, some of the steps as well on how to make the box.
So that was going to be that was going to be my next question, was about how if parents can start just using that box straight away, or if there's some prep work needed.
So there's definitely I think some preparation that could be done, and I think there's a few steps that I have in mind that you can go through. So let me just double check. So yeah, I think the first kind of idea is having the conversation about the box, having the chat with your child about what it might be used for, and thinking about with them, do they think it would be helpful? What could they kind of think about? And I'm sure they'll have lots of ideas that they can kind of bring to that
Mm.
conversation. So having that conversation to start with is important. And then going on to choose your box or your container, and it could be anything that's around the home. And again, I think that choice for the child is really important. It might be something like a shoebox or something that you've had for ages, but it has to maybe be quite sturdy, hopefully,
Right.
because it's
Okay.
going to
Okay.
be used quite often, and you want it to be quite sturdy. And then you want to maybe be going around the home to collect different things. And I think that's a really, really important step to do together, and to kind of think about with your child maybe what makes them feel relaxed, what makes them feel happy, what makes them feel chilled out, what makes them feel safe and warm as well, I think is important.
Mm.
Um,
That
and it,
step sounds like it could be a really interesting uh, step for parents, because they might not necessarily know that this
yeah,
thing or that thing makes their child feel relaxed, if the child hasn't shared that before. So it could be a really useful insight into their child from doing
yeah,
that step.
definitely, definitely. I think that's really important, and be creative about it as well. So if maybe, for example, your child loves going to the beach, it might be something maybe like pebbles or something that reminds them of that time at the beach,
Mm.
that you put into the box. Or if it's maybe that they love to pet the dog, you can't get your dog in the box, but maybe something fluffy or something quite tactile would be
Or a
really
picture of the
important.
dog.
So a picture of the dog would work, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then moving on to decorating it, I think that's, I mean, all the stages are important, but thinking about maybe drawings or cutting out or printing or painting the blocks. And I think maybe sometimes there might be needs to be a bit of encouragement there as well. So making sure you're keeping that choice for your child and collecting those things together, but also encouraging. And you could even name the box if you wanted,
Mm.
and the child would have their own ideas about what they wanted to do with that, how they wanted to decorate. I saw one that was somebody's kind of favorite place, and they printed off lots of pictures of it and covered the box with their favorite
Oh,
place.
great.
But it could be anything.
And I guess it doesn't necessarily have to be called a self-care box if the
No,
child has a different name for it that they want to use.
it could be anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, that stage of decorating the outside of it, and then thinking about and more conversation around what's going to go in the box. So I think this is a really good chance to really get to know what your child likes, what they need, and what choices they want to make. And
Mm.
doing that together again is really important. So another example is they might love summertime, and you might want to make a big sun together to put into the box. And then you're really part of it then as well, because it is meant to be a kind of self-soothing box, but when they access it, they'll have that memory of you guys making that together. And I think that's a really important part.
Oh,
Um,
that's
and I
lovely.
suppose I'd quite like to kind of go on at this stage to kind of think about some of the ideas that you might want to put in.
Hmm.
So I do have my box here, and that's got kind of a few different bits. So I think thinking about senses is really important when you're putting things into your box. So starting off with what have I got in here? Touch, I think, is really important. So your sense of touch, and I think fidget toys can be really helpful.
Oh,
So I
great.
have a Rubik's cube kind of snake that I love that
Oh,
really
yeah.
reminds me of my childhood. So that's something I keep in my box. Things like puzzles can be really helpful. Things like a stress ball or colouring in. I don't know if that's something
Mm.
that might be helpful, kind of pen and paper to colour in, and also things like organising, so things that you can sort into different things with
Yeah.
stickers
Yeah.
or beads or Lego, something that can really
Mm.
help kind of down regulate if they are feeling a
I've
bit
seen that
stressed.
used that example used in schools quite a lot, where there's things for them to organize into different colors, for example.
Yeah,
I'm sure I've seen kids sitting in a quiet space organizing colored pencils into um,
yeah,
piles of the different colors, so the red pile and a green pile, and that really seems to be something that can really calm someone down.
Yeah, really kind of simple,
I guess I guess
idea,
thinking
but
about that,
helpful.
it's quite a mindful activity, because while your hands are busy, your
Hmm.
brain is just kind of focusing on that, and shut out everything else, and just be
Yeah,
quiet for a second.
yeah, absolutely. And then to also kind of keep with that idea of touch, things that are quite soothing can be quite nice. So things that are tactile, like things that are fluffy or
Mm,
feathers or stones. Pipe cleaners can be quite nice, and Play-Doh. I like. I've got a little kind of tub of
mm,
Play-Doh, that can feel quite nice, to kind of make different bits. Shells can be quite nice too. They're nice and kind of soothing and soft, and nurturing as well. I think that's really important. So things like hand cream or a lip balm, or I've got my face cloth. I love to wash my face at the end of the day. That's a really important part of nurturing. Um, Blankets, pillows, kind of toys can be important, and also something that maybe reminds the child of to do something. It doesn't have to be something that I mean, some things you can't get into their box is what I
mhm,
mean. So
mhm,
maybe something that reminds them to do a butterfly hug, which can be a really nice, nurturing sensation where you basically kind of uh, cross your arms over and touch kind of left and right arms, and you kind of tap quite lightly, or it can be fast, it can be slow, and it
mhm.
basically just engages the kind of left and right sides of the brain, and just helps a child really to kind of down regulate into it. I think you see a kind of automatic change, and if you do it yourself, you can feel it. You can actually kind of feel yourself calm down and kind of feel quite good, I think. And also another great one, because we've always got our hands on the go, is finger breathing. So you
Okay.
can kind of breathe in to go up your thumb, and down to go out. So breathing out, and then kind of up to breathe in, down to breathe out, and kind of really take it slow going. And I think that kind of sense of touch and using your hands to do it, and also the process of it, and to slow down when you're doing it too, is really important.
Right. Yeah.
And those are a couple of things I picked up from Karen Treisman's training as well. I think those were really helpful
Fantastic.
um, ways to do it, because you don't need anything. You've got your body, you can do your
Hmm,
butterfly hug
hmm.
and your finger breathing, which are
Yeah.
really nice. And then moving on to the next sense, thinking about the mouth, and using things like sucking or chewing can be quite helpful for children, or blowing bubbles,
Mm,
blowing balloons. Feathers can be quite nice to kind of blow them, and also maybe thinking about warm or cold drinks. That could be something that helps them too. So if they really love a kind of warm drink at night time,
hmm.
having a reminder of that in their box might be really helpful. Uh, and then, yeah, thinking about smell. I love lavender, so I have a little kind of uh, essential oil, which can be really nice. So things that are quite soothing, like lavender and vanilla. But I think
Hmm.
smell is really, really personal. So it depends on what the child likes. They might love the smell of kind of fresh air and flowers, or
Mm.
lots of different things. And I think that's a really personal one. And
Clean
also,
laundry. Clean laundry is one of my.
oh, that's a good one. Yeah, so the
Yeah.
smell of clean laundry, that's nice. Um, and then also going on to hearing. So I love the music is my thing. I love all types of different music, or sounds, or
Mhm.
also sometimes the sound of your voice can be really, really important. And if you can manage to record that on a mobile or on anything, the kind of love and supportive kind of nature of somebody can be really important too. And then last but not least, the visual sort of stuff. I think that can be important too. You've got things like key rings that you can put in, thinking about cards, or pictures that they may have made, or videos as
Mm.
well. Sometimes there can be lots of videos online that might help children relax. And then also thinking about lighting is really important too.
Okay.
Sometimes children might just kind of need a kind of quieter, not as bright kind of space to have. And they'll, as I say, they'll direct and have their own ideas about all these things. So those are just
Mm.
some points, I suppose.
Oh, that's great. Those are really good examples there that parents can use when they're trying this out for themselves.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so if the people that are listening or watching this only take away 3 points from what we've discussed today, what would the most important three things be for you?
I think first of all, thinking about that choice is really important. So giving your child that choice and encouragement to kind of yeah, put whatever they want into their box, because I think at the moment we all are really kind of having a sense of lack of control, and to kind of
Mm,
bring that choice and that
yeah,
control back into a child's life is really important.
that's such a good point, because everything that's going on in the world today, a lot of it is about our choices have been reduced. We don't have as much freedom and
Definitely.
control. So
Yeah.
I like the fact that you link that into um, to how parents would do this activity, and really focus on the aspect of choice and having control over what goes in it. And
Yeah,
um,
definitely.
yeah.
And then my second one to sort of take away, I would say, would be to have that time for listening with your child. I think it's a really good opportunity to sit down and get to know kind of what your child enjoys and what they need.
Hmm.
So having that time to listen is my second one. And then the last one, I would say the third thing, I haven't really touched upon it, but is to make your own box. And I would really
Mm,
encourage you to do that before you even maybe approach it with your child, because it would give you the experience of doing it yourself and kind of working out what would be helpful for you in your box and what would bring yeah, you kind of joy at this time. So I think that that would be something to do, and to really hold on to that and to use your box too.
mm,
As much as I'm talking about doing it with your child, I think it's really important. But I would say not to do it together, because then I think it would be good to kind of sit and listen and give your child your full attention for their
okay.
box. I think that would be something I would encourage.
So you would encourage parents to make a self care box for themselves, but
Yeah,
not make their own box at the same time as they're helping their child make their box, but
yeah. I mean,
to do theirs first.
yeah, I would say
Yeah.
so. Yeah, I think from my own sort of process of doing it and putting some things into a box, that was really important to sort of
Mm,
understand the how it feels and what I want to kind of put in there. And I suppose you could give some examples of your box, so you could even show the child your box. But I
mm,
think it would be quite important to do that, yeah, to give your full kind of concentration, and yeah, to kind of switch off the TV, and to pop the kind of
mm.
mobile phones to the side and all those things, and to give your
Yeah.
full attention.
For parents that maybe have more than one child that they might want to do this with, would you recommend doing it one at a time, or could a parent support two kids to do a self care box together?
I mean, I suppose at the moment it's very difficult to sort of do it one at a time.
Mm,
If you
yeah.
can, then that's great. If you can give that sort of one-to-one attention, then fab. But I think that would be really difficult at this point. So I think
Mm,
doing it together and working with what you've got is fine. You know, yeah. I think
great.
just do what you've got to do, I suppose. Yeah.
And just the last thing, how if parents want to find out more about self care boxes, how could they do that?
So there's tons of stuff online. There's lots of videos on YouTube, lots of resources and ideas, and also with kids, I've created some resources as well. So a
Mhm.
kind of step by step guide of kind of what this yeah the steps I spoke about to
Brilliant.
make your box, and also kind of ideas of what to put in it will all be on yeah with kids platform somewhere.
Brilliant. We'll make those resources available on our Facebook and Twitter pages, um,
Great.
after this is uploaded, and is available for parents to watch. Um, Great. Well, thank you for chatting with me about that. It was really useful.
Mhm.
I think that we all need as much self care as we can get just now, and I think
Absolutely.
this is a really good example of a way to do that, a creative way to do that. Um, Okay, well, thank you very much. I'm going to go and get to work on my own self-care box later on tonight.
Great. I will look forward to seeing that, John. Wonderful. Mhm.
Fantastic. Thanks, Stacey.
Bye, John.
So that was my interview with Stacey. I hope you found it useful and can apply some of it to your own lives. I think we need as much help as we can get right now, and I'm grateful to have so many great people around to support us along the way. If you like this, then please give us a like or a review or a comment, so that we know what to do more of in the future. In the meantime, you can follow us by liking our Facebook page, Facebook pages, which are With Kids and With Kids Edinburgh. Our Twitter pages are at With Kids Scot, that's With Kids Scot, SCOT, and at with_kids Edin. That's with_kids Edin on Twitter. We're also on TikTok at With Kids Scot again, With Kids Scot. And our website is www.withkids.org.uk. You can also get me by email on j.mar@withkids.org.uk. This is a tough time for all of us, so please don't suffer in silence. Get in touch with us using one of those methods that I just mentioned, and if there's something that we can do to help, we absolutely will. Remember, you're doing fine, and we are going to get through all this. Until next time, stay safe, stay connected, and look after each other.